Hi, everybody. I'm back. Sonia Lakhani here with one of my 2 weeks of Trademarks alums, students, alums, and fellow attorneys, Stacey-Ann Taylor. How are you today?
I am doing fine. Thank you.
Thank you for being here with me and spending some time so I can capture your story. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
This is such a treat for me, and it's such a pleasure to be able to see what people are doing with my material. And I figure if we can share it and make it publicly so people can, silently watch, and a lot of times we'll never even know who they are, but they're inspired by your story and they get excited about possibilities. So let's dive right in. So I know all about you, obviously, but for the recording, for our viewers, our watchers around the world, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're up to, what you do.
Yes. Well, my name is Stacey-Ann Taylor. I am an attorney licensed in Georgia and Washington, D.C. I currently live and practice law in Georgia primarily. I am a trademark lawyer. And also I do practice general business law as well, contracts, copyrights, that kind of thing. And 2 weeks Trademarks was instrumental in getting me to this place. So I'm very glad to have this conversation.
It's such a flattering thing. I'm like, well, I had a hand in all that you're doing. Well, thank you. So let's maybe kind of rewind a little bit back to where you were when, you're already doing business law, right? So this wasn't a huge jump for you. I'm assuming you'd probably heard of trademarks, maybe have been dabbling a little. At what point did you make the decision of really committing to learning this practice area and making it a robust part of what you were doing? How long ago was that, and where were you when you were making that decision?
Okay, that's a great question. So I believe that I purchased the 2 weeks trademark course. I want to say it was Black Friday of 2020. I believe that's correct. And so I wasn't even in business 6 months in terms of running, starting my own law firm. I started this law firm July 31st, 2020. And so, yes, I was practicing general business law. I hadn't dabbled in trademarks yet. But I felt very strongly that, number one, I really like branding, market. I like all that kind of stuff. And I think that trademarks would just really, I figured it would be a really good fit for my personality. And I had been following and, just sort of like looking at other attorneys who were primarily trademark lawyers on Instagram and so on. And I just thought, you know what, I probably can do this, especially because I'm super detailed oriented. Before this life, I was an environmental attorney for many years, and I was a highly specialized environmental attorney, really focusing on just the regulation of chemicals in consumer and industrial products. And you have to be super meticulous, and you have to be willing to kind of just almost like learn on the fly, because it's just such an overwhelming amount of information. So I figured if I did that, I probably could do trademarks and get up to speed relatively quickly. So I remember following you on Instagram, and I remember maybe you talking about your 2 weeks to trademark course, or talking about just that you were going to have a sale for Black Friday or something like that. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy it. And it's one of the best decisions I think I've ever made for my firm, for my law practice. It's a very natural fit for my interests and my capabilities, and also my very, very type A personality. So
I think a lot of lawyers can relate to that. Yes. That I've always wondered, this whole chicken and the egg, like, are we type A because we went to law school and we're lawyers, or does the profession draw in those sorts of people and we went into this because we're like that? And now it's all convoluted because one has made the other worse or better. Yes. I would say we're very contributing members of society, I would say. And type A's are needed. We're very much needed. We keep the world running smoothly. So
very true.
Yeah. So in around the time frame, okay, so we're looking at almost 2 years ago. We're just shy of 2 years. Yes. And because we're recording this summer of 2022. So we're just shy of 2 years, Cyber Monday. So when you came across the material, was there any kind of sort of like hesitation in your mind? You'd seen trademarks, okay, like this fits what you are already doing work-wise, if it's with your personality. But as far as, sort of taking the plunge into investing in yourself, and it's not only the money, although that's a factor, but the time, the energy, and just the course in general, was there anything that made you hesitant that you were on the fence about at the time?
No, but I will be honest. I've never really been the type of person who is afraid to invest in themselves. I mean, it's as far as I'm concerned, it is the best investment. And I haven't failed myself yet. So I was not. I didn't really have any trepidation or anything like that. I knew from following you on Instagram and seeing you pop up on video here and there. And I mean, I felt very strongly that it's clear that you had an excellent reputation. I mean, people were commenting, making comments on your various posts. And I mean, it's clear that you were highly regarded in this practice area. And so I felt comfortable that if I bought this course, I would get what I needed to get out of it. And I was not disappointed.
I'm so glad to hear that. That makes me so happy because, as you can probably relate from your own work with your own clients, all you want to do is show up in the best way you can and give that value. And when someone's like, oh, you did, you're like, oh, okay. Like if it's such a great feeling, and no one's immune from that. Nobody is too cool or too successful to ignore that very human need that you want your hard work to pay off, and that's really meaningful to me. So, there is definitely a personal sort of like joy in this. I'd be remiss to overlook that, in terms of why I decided to start teaching. So you embark on the course. Obviously there's two options for the course, right? You have Boss of Myself, which is kind of the core trademark practice. And then there's Boss of an Empire. So what was your thought process as you're looking at the different versions and thinking, okay, do I just want to learn trademarks, or do I want to learn it and then get like all this like business systems, marketing, strategy calls, things like that?
I remember looking at both options and just thinking, I just want to get what you can teach me. So if you can teach me more and I have to pay more for it, I will just purchase it. Because obviously, and even 2 years ago, obviously you've been running your law firm for several years. You'd grown it to multi six figures. I think at that point it was obviously over $1 million even in revenue. And I knew that I am someone who really just trusts their instincts. And I really just felt like your course could help me. And even if I didn't use every single module, in the training, I knew that I would get my money's worth. And it's worth much more than you're selling it for. And I know you know that.
Thank you. It's actually really humbling that people say that, because equally I have people who are like, and we'll get into this a little later about, people who are on the fence and what their thoughts are. But, the investment level is definitely a deterrent, I think, for people who are doubting themselves, doubting the concept or the course. But then equally, there's people who are like, I took your $5,000 course and have made like multi six figures myself. And I'm like, you're like that, but that's like front row clap, auntie. Like, why wouldn't I want that? Like it's the best thing ever. And so I appreciate that, because it is, it's always a balance when you price something, I'm sure even as a lawyer providing services you're like, what's that sweet spot of making sure that it's accessible and reasonable, but also worth the value that it provides too. So thank you for that. I mean, I always say like, whenever you get in it's low, because it has only gone up from there. I did a case study interview the other day from one of my earliest, almost beta students. She was in the second iteration I ever did back in 2017. And she got in for $797 because I was so shaken with imposter syndrome, so shooketh, that I was like, I thought that was astronomical. And this is 2 weeks taught live every single session. Wow. So yeah, I know. And she was like, girl, if you had any idea what I have done with that investment, I'm like, well, you know what? Good for you. Good for you. So let's talk what we've done with investment. So at this part, we want to make sure that we're obviously not being too nosy and all up in your business. So to the extent, to however general or specific you want to get, people have done a range. How have you seen a change in your revenue since adding trademarks and taking the course and implementing it into your practice?
So my revenue went up significantly. I would say that it probably, probably tripled. But remember, putting this in context, I bought this not long after I started my firm.
Sure.
So so it was the trademark practice played a significant portion or significant part in my revenue the first year. And then obviously I'm almost at the end of the second year. I will say though, but beyond the revenue generation, beyond helping me to, improve my revenue, the experience of just working with better clients, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, is what really has made all of this worthwhile for me. The money is good. And I am, continuing to work on this practice area, continuing to get better, learning, doing all of that every day. But just working with, it's a different group of clients. And I know you understand what that means, what I'm trying to say. It's just a different group of clients. And so for me, it's really more like the peace of mind, less drama, less headaches. It's just I think when someone is willing to invest, and for me, my trademark services, I wouldn't call them, my price range is not high ticket. I offer an all-inclusive package. It's not high ticket, but I guess it's sort of like mid-range. But even just getting to like the mid-range clients, it's just a very different experience from how I first launched my firm. And so for me, that's what really has made all of this more worthwhile than anything. The money is nice and my revenue continue to go up. That's great. But I just like who I'm working with. And obviously, I'm sure we'll talk about the freedom soon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's a great segue. I mean, because you're right. Like you touch on something that is very core as far as a core value for me and obviously a core value for you. And I think something that a lot of trademark attorneys have in common, which is that we, care about how we spend our workday. To us, it's not the money, all money ain't green, and it's not all created equally, because there's some money that is painstaking and stressful to get and dramatic and every step of the way, right? A shout out to my attorneys in other practice areas that, we could never do, honestly. Like I don't have the stomach for it. And how we spend our workday is important, right? Versus having people that are tech savvy, for example, doing sophisticated things. It's happy law, right? You're building a brand. They're not generally in a bad mood. So yeah, that's a great segue. Talk to me about, if to the extent there's a before and after, or even if it's the same type, but gotten better, talk to me about the kind of clients you're working with and how that's impacted you.
Well, I'm very excited. I mean, I have clients who have businesses over $1 million in revenue every year. I have clients who are just starting out and just know that they have the next best thing and they just want to protect their investment before they even launch. And then everything in between. And, clients who have been in business for many years and just finally are getting the messaging that, hey, maybe I actually need to protect my brand in this way before, someone tries to steal this from me. So, I mean, it's consistently just, it's a kind of client. My thing is, for me, I want to work with people who kind of think like me. And I'm sure I'm not the only attorney who feels this way. I want to work with people. Imposter syndrome is something that is, as you said, it's just human nature. But I also I want to work with people who don't have any trouble really believing in themselves most of the time. And that's what I'm really getting. I would say that this particular practice area kind of separates the wheat from the shaft, probably because of one, the price range, and two, like I guess trademarks aren't a luxury, but in a way they are. It's one of those things where I just think it's a different group of clientele because of the type of service that's being provided, right? It's not an absolutely essential. We think it's essential because we're trademark lawyers, but it's not an absolutely essential service. And so when someone invests in themselves this way, it's usually they just have a different mindset, period. And that's what I'm getting to experience on a daily basis.
Yeah, you're dealing with somebody who is forward thinking, who is building something and knows that this could be, maybe in the beginning or mid stages, but the best is yet to come. And it's not this sort of clenching scarcity mentality where we're only worried about the today.
That's exactly right. So I definitely appreciate that.
It is nice. And, not only is it sort of more pleasant during your workday, but let's talk about, like you said, we'd be absolutely remiss if we didn't spend some time on the freedom aspect, because, I can take a lot of credit for teaching it, but I didn't design the area of trademarks. Like it exists, right? So talk to me about freedom, all autonomy, freedom, mobility, and location independence.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm like many attorneys. I am working from home. I have a home office. I have a virtual office with a Midtown Atlanta address that I drop in and, get my mail from and whatnot every so often. But I, obviously there aren't really any emergency situations in trademarks. I mean, probably in some very rare events, very, very rare circumstances, obviously, some things could crop up, but for the most part, it's not an emergency. And this is such a wonderful change for me. My previous job before I started my firm, I was in corporate America, and everything is an emergency. Everything is a fire, and it's just like the fires never stop burning. And so to go from that to this, to have really peace, to be able to construct my day, to be able to, only take client meetings on certain days, and that's obviously one of your modules as well, about time management. And that is very important. I truly am building my business around my life and not my life around my business. And so the trademark practice area is very freeing and very helpful in achieving that goal.
I love that so much, because it's like, well, it's exactly what I live for too. And you think you're the only one, and you're like, no way. Like it's so much more than that. Oh, I love that. So what is your lifestyle like, if you don't mind sharing a little bit? Like, do you have kids? Are you traveling? What are you doing sort of like lifestyle wise? Like, how is your life set up?
Well, I am not married. I don't have children. I do travel. I haven't really traveled much during the pandemic, really just to Florida to visit my parents in New York and things like that. But normally I would be traveling a lot, and I probably will start traveling again now that things are a bit more under control. But in terms of my lifestyle, I like to be able to work from where I want. So if I want to go and work, at my boyfriend's house for the day, I can do that. If I want to fly down to visit my parents in Florida and work from there, I'll do that. I want to be able to get up every morning, have my quiet time, work out, do what I need to do, and then start my day. And it's not a problem, because no one is screaming at me to put out a fire. So
nice.
Yeah. So from that standpoint, it is really such an ideal practice area, as you have said many times. I mean, it really allows for the kind of flexibility that most people really want, especially obviously for women, especially for people who are, wives and mothers or have a partner. I mean, to be able to really orient your business around your life is such a blessing. I mean, it is truly such a blessing. And it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners cannot do because of the nature of their work, and even attorneys, the nature of their practice areas. It just doesn't work for them. But it definitely works for us. And I do not take it for granted. I express gratitude about it every day, because I know that this is rare in the work world.
It so is. And we are so immensely blessed and lucky, but it's also, like I say famously now, I'm like, well, no, but there is some intention behind it. I mean, your choice of practice area matters. It has to take into account lifestyle factors. I mean, if you look at, I think medicine is probably the most adjacent profession as far as choices of directions you could go in different practice fields. And, they have the luxury in medical school to have rotations and residency where you can sample and see, not only do you like the stuff, but lifestyle. You may love a practice area, but it just doesn't work for you, right? You may love being a litigator, but if you want to travel, or you have young kids, or, that just doesn't work for you. I've been told many times I have the personality of being able to present and, probably win over juries. And I'm like, except that I don't have a personality to be chained to my desk. And so it's just not going to happen, not in this lifetime, And I think that we are so fortunate to have this as an option, but also to choose intentionally and to make that commitment to, like you said, to say, I'm going to invest in this, I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to really go the distance with this, because this is what I want to double down on. Right. So one thing that, you touched on, which is that, you're loving the clients that you're getting to work with and the types of the type of work you're getting to do. And I think that relates to something that a lot of attorneys, especially ones who are miserable in their current area, or, just not fully doing what they want to do revenue wise. Right. Let's put it that way. I think there's a concern about marketing, right? And and just how to get clients, right? Not to be crass, but that is kind of like, well, okay, how would I get clients? So do you mind getting into a little bit about, not to divulge any secret sauce, because, we all have our different ways of doing it, and that's not necessary, but maybe just generally as to what your experience has been with marketing, with getting clients, especially being, like you said, 2 years into the practice now, and mostly during a pandemic, which is scary, right? So talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay. I love this question. So one of the things that I loved about the course are the modules related to marketing. And you've said this many times, but all of your growth has been organic, right? You have not done any paid ads or anything like that. You found your own way to sort of work your own system to do marketing for your law firm. And so I will say that I did Google Ads for a year. That was kind of my first big push. I did Google Ads for a year from like September 2020, when I first started, a few months after I started the firm, to really like October 2021. Google Ads can be extremely effective. However, they are not extremely effective over a period of time. So at first, the Google algorithm is learning kind of, where it should show your ads, that kind of thing. After about, I would say 4 to 6 months, it's kind of figured it out. It's great. And then what happens is it does find you really, really solid clients. But after a while, because Google is a for-profit company, the cost of advertising continues to increase.
Sure.
And so at some point you have to decide, especially, the keywords related to the legal practice are some of the most expensive on Google Ads. And certain keywords, especially like personal injury, obviously we don't do that, but certain keywords are really, really expensive. And so just keep in mind that probably there are a lot of marketing methods that work, but one of the things that I think is fascinating is that what works at one stage of your business may not work at another stage. And so at some point, the Google Ads just did not make sense for me in terms of the return on the investment. But for a while, they were really great. I just want to put that, they were really great. I will say things that I have found more success with are really short form video content, Reels, TikToks. That's what I'm really into now. Video is one of these mediums, really the best medium for making an emotional connection with your audience, with your potential clients. And video has the added benefit of being able to be repurposed everywhere. So it's like you're everywhere at one time. I mean, if you want to be, obviously, right? If you want to be. I would say that, again, what works for you in one stage of your business now may not work in another stage, and you may have to try multiple marketing methods at one time to figure out what's best for you. I've literally gotten all kinds of ideas. I know someone who still uses fax machines to do their marketing. Yes, they still send faxes to other attorneys in different practice areas, not trademarks, saying, hey, this is, maybe if you have any clients who are interested in trademark services, let me know, blah, blah. Like really basically expanding their referral network through using a fax, which is something that I wouldn't even think to do, but it
blows your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I know someone else who still sends out postcards and like there's lots of methods that can be used. Someone who is active, very, very active in their bar association. I mean, there's just a lot of different ways that you can bring in clients. You just have to, one, find what works best for you and your business. And two, don't be afraid to push yourself out of your comfort zone to do it. That's like a big part of marketing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I really like what you said about, what works for one person may not work for another. And what worked for you in one stage definitely may not go the distance with you. At some point you do have to get to the point where you try different things, and, it's budget related, it's personality related, if you just want to throw money at a problem, I mean, ads and SEO are the way to go. But, at the same time, it can be, if you don't have time, then you have to have a lot of money, and vice versa. So because the content, right, the videos and stuff, that's a time expenditure, right? It's not free, because the time it takes to listen, everybody, to put on the blouse that she had, and to get the lighting straight, and to, and also like to be in the mood, right? Like you can't always feel like you're willing to do that. So, if you have time, then make content. If you are short on time and you have money, then throw money at it and do ads. And eventually you'll find a balance between the two.
But it is totally possible. I still believe it is totally possible to grow your business organically without spending cash. Now, yes, you're right. You will spend time, but it is still totally possible to do it. Again, you just have to be willing to try different things and push yourself out of your comfort zone. That, like, where the revenue is probably outside of your comfort zone. That's just how it seems to work.
100%. I still famously say that, I mean, I struggle from imposter syndrome just like everybody else. It's just my struggles with it are different, you know, but it's everybody has a thing of like hitting publish or hitting go live or, you know, whatever it is, you're like, oh, like, because you just don't know what people are going to say in response, you know, if anything, and you don't want negative comments. And unfortunately, you know, this is not limited to trademarks or law practice, but we live in an era where people get real brave with their thumbs, like
the thumbs, yes.
I know. And it's like, you know, I've experienced it myself. Like you post little tips and hacks and someone's like, well, why wouldn't you just do this? It's faster. And I'm like, okay, I was just saying this works for me. It's a little hack for me. It's like, you can't win. But yeah, I really like that you have experienced some of the different types of marketing. So you kind of know, and you're using that as you build.
Yes, absolutely.
So is it safe to say that you have not found difficulty finding clients? And I mean, I know you're only 2 years in, but you know, you're a good person to ask because you are kind of new. Yes,
I figured that's one of the reasons that you asked me to do this case study. I would say I haven't, the thing is, I don't think I've had difficulty finding clients. I don't think that has been my struggle per se. I think one of the things that I've really had to work on though is my sales, like just selling. And that's a module in the expanded course as well. I think sales, like, for many people who are business owners, whether you're an attorney running a law firm or whether you have a bakery, you run a restaurant, sales is something that a lot of business owners struggle with because sales does not come naturally to most people. Some people definitely, they're born to be salespeople. I am not. So I would say that it's not so much that I have had a hard time finding clients. I don't think that's been a super difficult struggle for me. I think it's really like just converting. I've had to, and I'm still working on it, really working on my conversion. Really, I'm actually in a group coaching program related to sales that has been very, very helpful for me. In addition to what I learned in your course, just really always working on your sales skills,
I love that. That's something I talk about a lot because everyone's favorite question in general, and to me, is always, well, how do I get clients? And it's like, I could give you you could just have the keys to my firm tomorrow, but everything would fall through the cracks because you don't have infrastructure, right? So number one, it's systems and infrastructure to handle all the influx. But also if you have people calling you and you don't have sales, it's because you have a conversion issue. If you don't have people calling you at all, you have a marketing issue. So I love that you zeroed in. And you guys, I want you to note that not only did she zero in on what, you know, is the gap is in her success, but you zoomed in and went, okay, let's invest in that now, right? That's my weak spot. So instead of what I think a lot of people do is like head in the sand, ostrich, like, oh, let me, you know, just ignore the problem and hope it goes away. You said, nope, I'm going to open up the vulnerabilities associated with that, right? What is stopping me from being a good salesperson? Is it confidence? Is it knowledge? Is it mindset? Is, you know, what's going on here? And now like you said, you're in training for that, which is amazing. I love that. And you guys, it's no secret that she's 2 years out and already doing really well because she's not afraid to invest in herself. She identifies key areas that need investing. And then once that's done, moves on to, because you're always going to be learning something, you know, people ask me a lot, you know, and not that this interview is about me at all, but people ask me, well, what do you got to learn? Like, you're fine. And I'm like, leadership training, always management training, because once you get to a point where you have a team, especially as it relates to a core value of mine, which is always keeping everybody remote. We've been remote since long before COVID, long before it was cool, actually. I remember being like, oh, we're virtual. It's like, you know, now it's trendy to do so. But managing remotely, making sure that you still have some semblance of a culture and a thread that keeps everybody together. That's another level of a video game that you don't even think about when you're in struggle mode, when you're just trying to pay rent, but it's levels to this. So
there's definitely levels. Yes.
Yeah. So what's next for you as far as, I mean, I know obviously just keeping going, but what do you sort of have your eyes on as far as goals, visions, anything that you're working on that you want to share?
Yeah, I think for me right now, I just want to double down on perfecting my craft as a trademark attorney. I've learned a lot since I bought that course. And the course also is just so helpful in terms of telling you actually how to do the work, teaching you how. I had like a vague idea of how trademarks worked, had some exposure to it at my my previous position in corporate America, but really like the nuts and bolts is what is in the course. And so I really just want to become a better trademark attorney. I really just want to become better at my craft. I'm always obviously trying to grow my firm, trying to grow the business. I do hope in the next year to be taking on additional staff other than just like a virtual assistant. But one step at a time. My biggest thing, I think the thing that the two key areas for me are just mastery of the craft and sales. That's really it in terms of bringing people in, who are interested in working with me. That's not a huge problem. But really, as I said, like just working on my sales conversions, working on just getting better at this work, that's really what my focus is. And I really feel like if I can master just those two areas, I'll be good. Like I'll be good long term.
So. I think so too. It sounds like you're already on track for great things, and it's no surprise. I mean, you have such a winning mindset, and I think that's why we kind of clicked from the beginning when we first started communicating. I was like, she thinks the way I do, and I think the way she does. So there's just that kind of natural chemistry we have too. So
yes, absolutely.
Congratulations on all that you've achieved, and may this only be the beginning, because there's so much time ahead of you. So I can't wait to see what you do, and don't forget us on the cover of Forbes one day.
Oh gosh.
You never know. You got to put it out there. You got to put it out there.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds. I'm very excited.
I'm excited too. I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time, because you obviously have things to do and businesses to run. So one last question for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, we touched on there being people out there that may be viewing, eyeing, being on Instagram, and just being on the fence about the course, right? Or on the fence about which version between the two. So if you could, what would you say to those folks? Maybe sort of like a last parting thought for those folks.
I think in the grand scheme of things, if you find a course that is a $5,000 investment, I mean, it may be more expensive by the time you're seeing this, but it's a $5,000 investment. If you consider the fact that you can really make that money back with like a couple of trademarks. I mean, depending on what you're charging, really at most, maybe like 3 trademarks. I mean, honestly, it's worth it to fully invest in yourself beyond just the nuts and bolts that are in the first part of the course. Beyond that, to really get into marketing, because you're able to learn from someone who was able to grow a multi-six-figure, then $1 million plus business in a relatively short period of time. You don't get that opportunity very often. And so to me, if you're able to afford it, it's worth it to do Boss of an Empire. It really is, because you're getting to learn from someone who's done it and is very open about it. And that's very rare.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the endorsement. I appreciate the support you've given me and my material for so long now. And that you remain, there is no community without its members. So thank you for just showing up, for being part of things, and for rocking with me. I'm so proud of you. Like it really is such a joy to see somebody take something and just run with it. So I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you on the next video.